Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast YouTube channel. My name is Sam and this is week 22 of our F1 Fantasy Show. In this episode, we'll be looking back to see how we did in Brazil, going through price changes and looking ahead to this weekend's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, going through Matt's final team of the season and any alternatives he might look to swap in before the deadline. But before anything else, let's introduce our fancy expert, Matt Collier. We're at Abu Dhabi. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you, Sam. Yeah, you're right. We've done 21 videos. This will be the 22nd one of F1 Fantasy. And yeah, it's crazy how time flies. How are you doing?
Yeah, you're certainly right. It is crazy how time flies. I'm doing very well, thank you. But let's look back at Brazil and see where we sit in the Scenario 7 podcast fancy table. Of course, starting with Performer of the Week, where we look back at the person who has got the most points from the last race. And in Brazil, it was Piotr C with the team name We Went Car Racing with 333 points. He had Verstappen as his mega driver, who got 90. Sainz as his turbo driver, who got 86. Bottas got him 22. Fernando Alonso got him 27. Mick Schumacher got him 9. And Mercedes got him 99. And I'm not going to lie, 333 points. I know he used his mega driver, and I know that it was a sprint weekend, but that is a fantastic effort from Piotr C. And yeah, very deserving of Performer of the Week. And now to the top of the table. And it's not really surprising, but Andrew T retains his spot sitting at the top of the tree with 4,438 points. He now has an 133-point lead going into the final race and is looking a very safe bet to get top spot, and completely deserved, it has to be said. Now to you, Matt, and you've gained 2 places up to 10th on 4,082 points. A fantastic weekend for you. We will dive into more detail in a bit, but surely you have to be happy with how you did.
Yeah, I was very happy. I was second for the week, and I think for the first time this season, the expert outperformed the master, being Andrew T. Yeah, it's kind of just goes to show how brilliant Andrew T's been throughout this season. Yeah, I was very happy with how it went. Obviously, it could have gone slightly better, but yeah, to finish second for the week, I'm very pleased.
Yeah, I mean, that is a mighty effort from you. And as I said, we'll talk a bit more about it. But first, we're going to have to go over me. And we're hopefully going to be quite quick about this, or I'm going to be quite quick about it. I sit down in 28th. I've dropped a place since last week on 3,610 points. I got 150 points last race, which ranks me 73rd out of 82 in the league.
It's a good job you're not finishing there.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness for that. So a real mighty effort from me. And after Mexico, I thought, right, I've got my team. Do I want to tamper with it? And I was like, no, it'll be fine. But then Leclerc, of course, his strategy is completely messed up in qualifying. He gains places in the race, but not as good as he could have done. You have Sergio Perez, who got ruined by Leclerc in the qualifying because he got stuck behind him, so ended up in 9th. And then his teammate didn't let him pass in the race. And I don't think the strategy was great from Red Bull there. Sebastian Vettel, turbo driver, 20 points. I thought he was all right. I don't remember where he finished at the end, but I did think he did get points on the Sunday.
I think he finished 11th ahead, just behind Stroll.
Oh, there you go. So that's even worse. I thought he got in the points. He didn't even get on the points for my turbo driver. I had Valtteri Bottas, who got me 22 points, which is decent, fine. Magnussen, I was so happy. I was like, I'm going to do great this week on the Friday. Kevin Magnussen's a pole. This is amazing. In the sprint, I saw him dropping positions, and I'm like, it's fine. He's still got a point in the sprint race. I'm proud of him. And then Daniel Ricciardo, who I love Daniel Ricciardo and I want to defend him, but he has been awful this season. And it might just be me saying this because I'm annoyed about Magnussen, but he has been awful. And it was such a stupid move that ended up taking them both out of the race. And then Red Bull, Verstappen, and Perez were just nowhere near the lead. So, yeah, that's my team. Everything went wrong for my drivers. And yeah, I said I didn't want to dwell on it too much. I appear to have dwelled on it quite a bit. But hey ho, what can you do? It's on to Abu Dhabi, where I do need a bit of a rescue effort. But let's now go more in depth with last week's team. Matt, can you talk us through your selection for Brazil?
I sure can. So yeah, I was second for the week. I got a total of 321 points, and the scary thing is it could have been a lot more. I still had two DNFs, and I was second for the week. Kind of just shows how many good points I got. So yeah, I'll go in depth how my drivers did. Lando Norris got 11 points. I was really pleased to see that he recovered from his food poisoning and he was able to take part this weekend. He qualified fourth on the Friday, got points in the sprint, but yeah, and then unfortunately had a reliability problem in the main race. Really disappointing from that turn, but he still got 11 points. On to my next driver, Sergio Perez got 29 points. As you explained, he did get shafted by Leclerc trying to do a flying lap on Inters whilst everyone's on softs. I was so surprised seeing him start a flying lap and Perez literally right behind him. It was a mess. But yeah, Perez got 29 points. He still got his race streak of plus 10, so that was okay. On to the next driver, Kevin Magnussen, sitting there on Friday, watching qualifying. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw him. He was just superb. It's kind of probably one of the highlights of the whole season, to be honest. Seeing Kevin Magnussen qualify on pole, such a good lap, and yeah, obviously him starting on pole, he was always going to drop down the order. I think he finished 8th in the end in the sprint, getting a singular point. But then, as you touched upon it earlier, Ricardo just wanted to punt him, and I remember my dad watching it, just like, yeah, Ricardo, I'm not finished with you just yet, and just reversing into Ricardo and wiping them out, which I found quite funny. My turbo driver, Carlos Sainz, he did really well. He got 86 points, and yeah, there's been a lot of times where people have done alternatives and benefited, but this particular race, you wanted to have Sainz as your turbo driver, who, of course, finished on the sprint on the podium, finished the race on the podium, beat Leclerc in both of them, and even qualifying. So yeah, to get 86 points was a huge haul. And then on to my mega driver, Verstappen, not the best weekend. Got 90 points, but I can't really complain because everyone around me had Verstappen as their mega driver. So many problems. You've mucked up the sprint when only you and Latifi are starting on the mediums and everyone else is on softs. I don't know what they were thinking there. And of course, contact with Hamilton during the race, and then onto the constructor, the t-shirt that I'm repping. Finally, some redemption for Mercedes. Superb weekend. Seeing them line up 1-2 for the race on Sunday, I was like, yes, I made such a good decision. And yeah, they got 99 points. It was superb, absolutely flawless. And yeah, I got a total of 321 points. And yeah, I can't really complain for much more. I did get 2 an S, but still really good result for me.
Yeah, I mean, coming second for the week, you can't really complain. Time to look at some price changes. And as always, there have been several fluctuations since the last race and will continue to be until the deadline. What we talk about now is the prices at the time of recording and are likely to change, especially considering we're recording this on a Tuesday before the race. So there's quite a few days in between qualifying, practice, and the race on Sunday, of course. So, Matt, let's start with the drivers. What changes stand out to you?
Yeah, once again, the market has been absolutely manic. F1 fancy just do whatever they want. Backs up the point I made a few shows ago about the points per million kind of calculations has now been changed to how well a driver does in the previous race, and that's shown with these price changes. So yeah, George Russell's increased by 1.1 million after a superb weekend out in Brazil. He's gone from 23.1 million up to 24.2 million. So an increase of 0.1 that just spiked over like literally like a few days. Carlos Sainz, I've talked about already. He's increased by 0.7. He's gone from 18.7 up to 19.4 million. I remember, I think it was last show, I was like, there's no way he's going to reach 20. Now he's only like 0.6 to get there. But yeah, he's increased by 0.7. Daniel Ricciardo, DNF, of course, in the race. He's gone down 0.3 million. He's gone from 5.6 down to 5.3 million. Onto the constructors. And I think for probably the first time, or one of the first times this season, it's actually Mercedes that have had the biggest increase and not Red Bull. Mercedes have gone up 1.2 million, so that was very good for my team. They've gone up from 31.5 million up to 32.7 million. Of course, got a 1-2 out in Brazil. Ferrari have increased by 0.6 million. They've gone from 29.3 million up to 29.9 million, increase of 0.6. And AlphaTauri, they've decreased by 0.1 million. They've gone from 5 million down to 4.9 million, and they are the cheapest constructor on the game at the moment. And yeah, it just proves how much price changes can fluctuate over the season. And yeah, they're the main price changes.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't just show how much they can fluctuate over the season. We're recording on a Tuesday. The race was on Sunday, and there have been a bunch of different changes. So there are fluctuations on the daily, but in really random times for random drivers, which is quite strange. But let's look at the team you might be deploying this week. And of course, we need to preface this with the fact that, like the price changes, this is subject to change, as the deadline is not until Saturday, and practice sessions can give an indication of how teams are going to perform over the weekend. So let's start with Lando Norris, priced at 14.8 million. He keeps his place despite DNFing in Brazil, ending a torrid birthday weekend. Why does he keep his place?
Yeah, it was a big shame seeing Lando DNF. But yeah, over the course of the whole season, he's got so many points, and with Ricardo not performing at all this season, he's always going to get the extra beat your teammate points. So that's always good for my team. That's why I've kept in my team this week.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. It was just so unlucky having that bad a weekend on his birthday. And next up is the man that's a McLaren driver, nicknamed Russell George, a first-time race winner in Brazil, comes in for a very disgruntled Sergio Perez, worth 24.2 million. Why did you swap these drivers around?
Well, George Russell this weekend has a qualifying streak, and he's also got a race streak. And of course, he won out in the last race in Brazil. So it'll be interesting to see how that Mercedes car performs at Abu Dhabi. But as explained earlier, he's got a qualifying streak and a race streak. So there's a potential for an extra plus 15 points. And yeah, it's quite clear now that having a Mercedes asset is very important. Out in Mexico, I didn't go with one, and I kind of regretted it. So Brazil, I made sure that I definitely had one with the constructor. But anyway, yes, that's why I brought Russell into my team with the streaks.
Yeah, seems fair enough. It's a shame that Mercedes have peaked so late in the season, as they could have provided good competition for Red Bull and Ferrari had they peaked quite a bit earlier. And next is Kevin Magnussen, also keeping his place valued at 6.4 million. No movement in his price momentum again. A first-time pole sitter in Brazil, which is why I find it bizarre that his momentum has just stayed exactly the same. Why does he stay in your team?
Yeah, it's very weird how a driver can get pole and not change their price at all. Considering he was he was the cheapest driver on the game at the start of the season. But yeah, Kevin Magnussen, such a experienced driver, getting pole out in Brazil, and yeah, he's just such a good pick for his price. He's been in my team for basically the entirety of the season, and yeah, he keeps his place in my team.
Yeah, that's fair enough, really. And Carlos Sainz is the first of two Ferrari drivers in your team this weekend and is your turbo driver, costing 24.4 million. Why is Sainz in your team?
19.4 million, just to be correct.
Yeah,
But yeah,
sorry.
that's all right. Yeah, so Carlos Sainz remains in my team. I think he's the best turbo driver pick by far, unlike Vettel that you've been picking for a few weeks. But yeah, he stays in my team. As explained in the last show, according to my sources, he was going to have a grid penalty, and he did. Still had a very good weekend, as explained earlier, beating Leclerc. And yeah, him being in a Ferrari is always really good because it means he's in a quick car. And yeah, that's why he's my turbo drive for this week.
Yeah, I have written down 14.4 million and I knew that wasn't right. So I was like, right, I either take a punt up five or up 10. And I went up 10. It's a shame. But anyway, Sainz in your team. And Max Verstappen had a nightmare weekend in Brazil and made an enemy of his teammate. And to make things worse, Matt is removing him from his team and bringing back 24.5 million Charles Leclerc. Why have you reverted back to a Ferrari double?
Yeah, the teammate one's interesting. I remember watching Saudi Arabia, and Alonso and Ocon were both fighting each other, and I said it was a bit toxic, and you were kind of really surprised. But yeah, you're not laughing at me anymore, are you? Because well, it clearly is very toxic, and yeah, out in Brazil it's very toxic, and yeah, even Verstappen and Perez had some arguments after the race, and yeah, the reason I'm getting rid of Verstappen this week for Leclerc is because Leclerc's got a race streak, so he'll get an extra +10 if he finishes in the top 10 on Sunday, and yeah, that's why I brought him into my team.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Alpine, you're completely right. It has got really toxic there with Alonso saying only like how excited he is that there's only one race left between the two of them, which shows what it's got to behind the scenes. But yeah, the Red Bull saga, it's a shame because it seems to completely overshadowed how good Mercedes were in Brazil. And that is a shame, but I'm not over what Max Verstappen did. I think just disrespectful to the team. But this is F1 fantasy. Let's move on before I get too emotive about it. And another returning asset is Red Bull, who have been swapped back in for Mercedes after a week away. You have all this going on behind the scenes, and at 40.2 million, you've bought them back. Why have you done this?
Yeah, they've got a qualifying streak this weekend. I still kind of want to cover the basis of having either Red Bull drivers or Red Bull constructor. So yeah, I'm bringing in Russell this weekend and bringing in Red Bull as a constructor. So I'm basically kind of just swapping them around in different places in order to benefit the streaks. So yeah, Perez and Verstappen qualify in the top 10 on Saturday, they'll get extra +5 points, and that's why I've brought Red Bull into my team.
Yeah, and that's fairly likely to happen. I think it's fair to say, as long as Perez or Verstappen don't get stuck behind the car and inters when it's bone dry on the track. But we've gone through your team. But who are some alternatives that you're potentially looking to swap in before the deadline? And the people at home can potentially put in their teams.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be raining at Abu Dhabi, Sam, but you never know. Yeah, on to the alternatives. On each show, I go through three alternatives. I choose one constructor and two drivers. The constructor I've gone for this week is Ferrari. They're currently priced at 29.9 million, and they have a race streak this weekend. So Sainz and Leclerc finishing the top 10 on Sunday. They'll get extra +10. On to the drivers. Once again, I've gone with Valtteri Bottas. He's currently priced at 8.1 million. The last 2 races, he's finished in the top 10. Of course, he scored points out in Brazil on Sunday, so he looks like a very solid pick for people's teams. And on to the last pick, as it's his last ever race in Formula One. I have to choose Sebastian Vettel, currently priced at 10.4 million. I'll definitely be cheering him on in his last ever race. I'm sure you will be as well. And yeah, he's also an alternative for people to consider for their team.
I can't believe you haven't picked the other driver whose last race it is, Nicholas Latifi. I mean, you've got to. I'm surprised you haven't put him in your team. I might do that just for last race ever. I'm feeling emotional. I mean, he's
There's
one of the
quite,
greats.
yeah, there's quite a few to be fair. We're gonna have like Ricardo, Mick, Latifi, Vettel. That sounds like a brilliant team.
Yeah, just get all the drivers who are their last race. I mean, to be fair, some have more chance of coming back than others, aka Ricardo and potentially Mick. Latifi has no chance, and Vettel's retiring. So we'll have to see what happens. But that wraps up our video. I hope you found it helpful. A reminder that the deadline for changes is qualifying on Friday. So get your team on Saturday. So get your teams finalised by then. It's not a sprint weekend, Sam. Got to remember that. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials linked down below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.